Okay, so today's topic is about mortgage fraud and awareness and how to deal with it. We will be covering up some topic from real estate perspective here. Although some of our realtors also hold the license for mortgage agents, mortgage brokers as well. So it will be good for both, but as a realtor, we do face these issues quite often, and we have to be very careful when we are dealing with real estate transactions, just to make sure we understand. So hence the topic for today. Just gonna make it into full screen, so hopefully you can see the screen. So like I said, today's topic is about mortgage fraud awareness. With Urban Realty, I'm Sunny Parmar. I will be presenting this. So let's start this topic. What is mortgage fraud? Mortgage fraud, basically anything to do with mortgage. If you are changing documents, if you are changing information from any aspect, from the lender's aspect, from the real estate aspect, from the mortgage application aspect. And yes, mortgage fraud is a crime. Um, a lot of people think, they are helping other people get a house, or they are helping people get into some sort of a property so that they can make money and stuff like that. But again, don't take it lightly. Mortgage fraud is a crime. If you ever suspect that for any reason you probably are being forced into something, or you're getting involved in a fraudulent transaction, please report it right away to us at the office, or you can contact RICA as well. We will be dividing this topic in a few sections here. So let's start with the signs of mortgage fraud. How can you feel? How can you figure out? How can you see that a mortgage fraud is happening? You are working with buyers or sellers, and someone offers you money to use your name and credit information, right? Or let's say someone gives, it could be your client as well. They offer money to someone else to use their information to buy a house, their names, their credit information. Um, People encourage you to include false information. As a realtor, one thing I would like to stress at this point is, for example, there used to be a lot of trend. It has died down, but it has not completely vanished yet. Is when you are filling an offer to purchase, and in the name of the buyers and or nominee is included. Um, there is no other reason than someone trying to do a mortgage fraud when they force you to put and or nominee. And or nominee technically will be used for finance most of the time. There is no other reason for someone to use and or nominee into it. You can understand we do have amendments. So if ever anything needs to be changed later on, we can add or amend a name. You don't have to start the application with and or nominee. So be careful when someone like this is asking you, or some of your client are asking you or forcing you to put and or nominee. That is like a flag that later on something might be included. If someone encourages you to leave important areas of loan application or purchase contract blank, they don't want to sign it for now. They don't want to initial it. They want you to insert certain things later on and leave them blank right now. That is a very big sign that it could be going towards the mortgage fraud. Loan amount, purchase price is much higher than the value of the property. That is a sign right then and there. If you find out that the mortgage on this property has been refinanced again and again, and especially every time the refinance amount is higher than the previous amount, that is a very clear indication of a mortgage fraud being going on. Especially if the market is stable, the property values are not going up, or if the market is like today where actually the prices might be going down, but the mortgage has been refinanced with higher amounts and stuff like that. That is a very clear indication. sellers or investors, so-called investors, discourage you from looking at the house. They don't want to show you the house, and they discourage you to put a property inspection condition. They force you to put, oh, it's a very good property, I don't want any conditions, just put the offer as is without any conditions, and my seller will accept it. It's a multiple offer situation and all those kind of things. So just be aware, not all of them are fraudulent, but that could be a very good sign of a mortgage fraud being going on. How many types of mortgage frauds are there? We're going to go into the broader sense here. Although all this kind of mortgage frauds might fall into these broader categories, foreclosure fraud. As a normal human being, not as a realtor or any other, like, you can see that whenever anyone is in distress, someone else will try to take advantage of it. So in a foreclosure situation, of course, the sellers or the homeowners are in a stressful situation. They have missed payments, foreclosure procedure has started. A lot of people out there, a lot of creative minds will try to get into a foreclosure fraud here, knowing that the homeowner is under stress anyway. They will approach the homeowner um, with a like a debt consolidation scheme, saying, okay, you know what, I'll get you out of this situation, transfer the title to me or my company, and whatever the payout penalties and stuff are there, you take care of it, or I will pay it, and I will transfer the title to me, and whatever the balance is my responsibility. And most of the time the homeowners fall for it. Homeowner receive, either they give them a cash upfront from Froster to pay immediate bills. Bills might be a couple of $1,000 and all those things, and the seller is already under stress. They tell them, okay, you know what, let me get into the house, either as a tenant or as a homeowner. I'll get the land title transferred. Here's the cash for the closing cost and stuff, and I'll look after everything. Similarly, rent to own scenarios as well. We will discuss rent to own a little bit later in more detail, but if just to give you a hint, these are similar kind of situations where the homeowner is under stress and someone wants to get into the house, promising them cash and promising them mortgage payments. The fraudsters very easily can remortgage or sell the property to an accomplice, making the sellers, the actual homeowners, still in debt, but the property has been gone. So they still owe the loan and they gain nothing out of it, and they have lost the house too. So there is no way they can pay the mortgage back or sell the house. Fraud for profit. I mean, fraud is done for profit, but this one specifically, you have to be careful here, because most of the time this involves a team of people working together. I will like to take you back a few years when BMO case was too much into the news, Bank of Montreal case, and they used straw buyers. Now, who is a straw buyer? In a very, very normal sense, a straw buyer is a person who purchases on behalf of another person. So in the team of those people, there were straw buyers, there were lawyers, there were people working inside the Bank of Montreal or who were connected to the Bank of Montreal to get the loans approved. And there were straw buyers, of course. So all these team of people got involved and they started selling. In this scenario, in the BMO case, there was a couple of condominium buildings around Calgary and in Calgary where they were selling each individual unit and getting straw buyers and telling other people to buy into that. People with less good credit. So straw buyers may for profit lend their identity and good credit to get the mortgage. So look at it this way, that if you are lending your ID to someone, then you are a straw buyer. The real buyer in this case promises the straw buyer, oh, I will just use your ID to get the mortgage and I will be making the payments. But there is no reason for them to make the payments. They become the homeowners and the lender keeps getting, they have lended, the mortgage broker has got the commission paid, right? And then the lawyers have made their fees. So the buyers stop making the payments, and the straw buyer who lended their ID and their credit to get the mortgage are left with making the payments. And the real buyer now can flip the property and make more money on that as well. So it goes quite deep. So this is fraud for profit using straw buyers. Fraud for housing. This is the most common thing used, and we sometimes think it's not a crime, but it is. So let's be very aware. Any kind of false information to get a mortgage is a fraud. Even the information which says that, yes, I am buying it as a principal residence, or I will be living in it. You know, it's my second property. I'll be renting my first one, but I will be living in this. But you have no such intentions. After getting the mortgage, you still keep living in your previous house and you flip this property or you rent this property. This also is a mortgage fraud. Of course, I find most of the time real estate professionals, mortgage professionals, they give into this kind of a pressure just to make a little bit of money. But think about long term, you are asking for trouble here. This is not a very small thing saying, oh, so what? They are making the mortgage payment anyhow. We just are doing this to get the mortgage. But it is false information. Fraud.
अब्दुल गफ्फार भाई मौलवी आ गया, मैसेज ले लीजिएगा जरा.
Can you guys please stop your microphones?
Sorry.
Okay, continuing with the screen here. Let's go back to that screen. Fraud for title. A lot of times gullible people can get hit by this. You will find this happening when someone has stolen the ID for the actual homeowners and changed the title names. Most of the times we hear this coming from the banks. When someone goes for the mortgage, they find out that somehow their house doesn't belong to them anymore. They have been making the the monthly payments. Bank never called them and told them to stop the payments, but somehow their land title has changed hands because their ID was stolen. Fraudsters take the money, they can resell the house, they can refinance the house, they can remortgage the house, and they are actually left with the debt still to continue. So this kind of a fraud is there too. It should raise a flag, like when you are listing a property and if you have not asked for the land title up front, or if you have not pulled the land title up front and you have not checked the IDs, if you put that kind of a house on the MLS, you could be you could be asked a lot of questions. A RECA might come after you, and as a broker also. Like, that's why we force you to or encourage you technically to send us the listing documents the moment you list something on MLS. And that is why we have as a company policy as well, that before you list the house on MLS, make sure few things have been completed, that you have pulled the current land title, you have also filled the FinTrack IDs. That proves that you have looked at their IDs, you have filled the FinTrack IDs properly, and the names and stuff match with the names on the title. So it'll take care of a lot of things before starting the process. If you see any red flags there or something else, you can help the person and direct the sellers direct into the right direction. You can talk to us as well. You can talk to RECA, you can talk to their bank, or you can tell them to talk to their bank and take it from there. So at least you will not be putting false information, knowingly or unknowingly. You will not be putting false information on MLS. Technically, you have not done your due diligence and you have put the wrong information on the MLS, becomes your problem as well. So fraud for title needs to be looked into. Seller financing, a vendor take back. Now, seller financing and vendor take back, rent to own situations and stuff like that, most of the time fall into a fraudulent transaction. There are some good ones as well, but most of them. So these are the things to look very carefully for when someone is offering a vendor take back or a seller financing fraud. The situations are where the seller agrees to sell the property in exchange of buyer's monthly payments, including interest, as opposed to full purchase price paid upfront. If a transaction is not being paid fully, it is not a transaction. If you understand the point here behind here is that someone is promising something on a monthly basis, the land title is not changing hands, right? Only the payments are changing hands. Full purchase price has not been paid. How can you call it a real estate transaction, first of all? Something to think about. Rent to own agreements are pretty much the same. The buyer thinks that they have entered into a legitimate real estate agreement. Where in real sense, in real life, they have not. If you look at those agreements, I get this phone call sometimes in this kind of market, or even in a different market, from realtors saying, um, can we do this? So first of all, from your commission perspective, if there is no transaction, you don't get paid. Rent to own is not a transaction. You will not get paid. The title hasn't changed hands. How can a title change hand when the purchase price has not been paid? How will the lender get their money? How will the seller get out of that money or that mortgage? How can the buyer get the title on their name? Although all these kind of things, clauses look very nice in rent to own agreements, and some realtors fall for it as well, thinking that it's a real agreement which they are signing or the parties are signing. So from a commission perspective also, you don't fall into the place. You will not get paid. And it's very, very risky for sellers and buyers as well, because the registration on the title is not changing hands. It's only buyers' monthly payments. Most of the time, sellers are trying to make a fool of the buyers or trying to take undue advantage from the buyers, because they might be under stress to look for a house, or thinking, and then they can walk away with their down payment and whatever they have paid in a year or 2 years as well. In legitimate seller financing, the very first thing to know is if the seller owns the property outright. There is no mortgage. There is no lender. There is no third party involved in this. Seller owns the property outright. They want to sell it out as a rent to own to someone. It still makes sense, because there is no third party which needs to be paid out for the title to change hands and stuff like that. The land title will still not change in this. The rent to own is that you will keep paying me such and such rent for so many years, and then if you qualify for your own mortgage, then you can use this rent or portion of this rent as a down payment, and then the lender might give them some sort of mortgage to buy this house. If they don't get it, all their rent and all the money paid for down payment is taken and forfeited by the seller. So the buyers are the losers here. So seller sells the property in exchange for buyer's monthly payments. Seller registers this agreement on title as a mortgage. So this agreement, rent to own agreement, actually gets registered on the title as a mortgage. In rent to own scenarios where the seller owns the property, I would suggest none of the realtors to get involved in it, especially if they are agreeing, both the parties are agreeing to go into this kind of a situation. Tell them to get their own lawyers and chalk out the contracts as and what pleases them between themselves. Do not get involved. Do not be part of these kind of situations, whether they are legitimate or they are mostly fraudulent anyhow. You will find out later that someone was not giving you the full information. There was some kind of a hidden agenda behind it, and you were just used. Scams. Although it's fraud, these things are more under scams because they are happening almost every day. We have seen a rise in scams where a person advertises a property for sale and offers misleading and fraudulent seller financing information. Try to stay away from ads or social media posts where you are offering a 1% down payment for this house or 2% down payment, and we will get you the financing and all those things, that will be considered as misleading and fraudulent information from MLS perspective if anyone shows up and you are not able to get them that financing. So be very careful with these kind of posts and advertisements given out. It will fall under scam. And buyers and sellers think they have entered into a real estate purchase contract when they have not. You know, those kind of scams are very common. Buyers enter into a contract without paying the full purchase price, again taking you back to the rent to own kind of a thing, where they have not paid the purchase price and they think they have become an owner. Or the seller has a mortgage from a lender registered. There is a lender on the title, sells the home to a buyer on a vendor take back, and the lender has no idea. So these kind of things, you know, if they disclose this information to the lender will never let them change the title, because lender has the right into that property. So that's why they don't do it. They take care, they take lawyers and other scammers into their team, and they try to hide these kind of information from the buyers. How to avoid scams? You know, we are realtors. Our job is to make money by doing the real estate transactions. I will not stop you from doing it, even if it's a dual agency, even if you end up becoming a representative for both sides, for sellers and buyers. But keep in mind, the moment you start dual agency situations, your due diligence and you are becoming more and more gullible to get involved into a scam. There are a lot of people out there who have a lot of information, who are much more creative than what you can think you are, and they will force you into these kind of situations to get into a dual agency, and you can fall into traps. You know, a simple call, like someone calls you and wants to see your listing and saying, you know what, I don't want to involve any other realtor because I don't want, this is just an initial stage. Can you show me and then I'll get involved with someone else? Or they call you and say, why can't you put, I'm ready to put an offer, so I will save some commission if I use you and all those kind of things. So can you represent me? You have no idea what people are thinking at that time. It might sound very lucrative that there is no one else, you know, but look at it from seller's perspective. You are not being due diligent and not doing your duty properly for the seller, which you have signed the agreement before with. Yes, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of realtors out there who can handle the situations very, very nicely. Don't get into the greed. The very first sign you see of the scams happening or any sign of the fraudulent mortgage fraud going on, get out of that due diligence. You know, don't keep lingering on. You know, you get the buyers in as tenants, they still don't have the mortgage, you know, and then the sellers are losing. So all these kind of messy situations will become your monkeys later on. Be extra careful in FISBO situations. We have had situations where people will force you to get into mere postings and stuff. You know, they don't want to pay commissions. They don't want to, commission is most of the time the main source. But if they want you to list, you have done a CMA, for example, of a property which is 400,000. They want you to list it as a mere posting for 450, 475, 500,000. Why do you want to do that? Right? So think about all those things. They want to list it at a much higher than its value. So there is something going on, and they don't want any representation. That's another flag. Because as a realtor, you might come in touch with a lot of situations or a lot of things happening later on once you have put it on mere posting. So be aware of those kind of situations. We have had situations where FISBOs were not even actual sellers, and they were working as for fraud for money, for profit, with a team of lawyers and stuff, where they will sell the same property. They are tenants. It doesn't even belong to them. And they are selling that property with the deposits to 10, 20, 30, 40 people. And the deposit is going to the lawyer. And once everything is done, the lawyer disappears with the money and those people are gone. Do not list a property on MLS where the seller already has a buyer. This is a very common thing. They will call you and say, just put it on MLS. I already have a buyer. Why would they need it on MLS? Because mortgage lenders will not lend on a property which is not properly listed on MLS. So here they are trying to get you, and the purchase contracts will go at a much higher price. The difference will be used as deposits. and whereas it actually never was paid as a deposit. So do not get involved where seller tells you, oh, I already have a buyer, just put it on MLS, I just need a mortgage on it. That's a clear sign of fraud. Title search, FinTrack ID, RPR, and other real estate documents, if you fill them properly, completely, with care at proper times, you can avoid scams. Most of the time, you will find them. We sitting in the office, if we look at the offer to purchase which comes to us or the listing agreement, if we sitting at the office can tell you that few of the information which is missing, we can tell you that this is going in the direction of a mortgage fraud. Then why can't you catch it at the proper time? Most of the time, the reason is because these title searches, FinTrack IDs, RPR, and other things have not been completed at the proper time. So do your due diligence. Always fill out the proper forms at proper times. You will save so much trouble for yourself or later on. There are a lot of people out there who are looking for the real estate licensed people to use them basically for their own advantages. So do not give them that chance. You could be a very experienced realtor, but again, it takes one slip, one small little greed, one small little thing which they haven't shown you the full picture to get you involved into that scheme. And this is why most of the time our real estate people get into trouble. We have nothing to do with mortgage, but mortgage cannot proceed without a purchase contract and without the MLS forms. These are our biggest two advantages. Listing contracts, purchase contracts, MLS, lenders, the biggest lenders, even CMHC, and all those people look at MLS information, which we put on MLS to give the loans, to know the value of the property, to get the appraisals, to understand what's going on, history of the properties, all those things. So we have biggest tools, and if we don't use them properly, we can get into trouble and we can harm public as well. Double check the IDs as many times as you want. You have a little bit of doubt, please ask for another piece of ID. We are looking at a $500,000 transaction on an average. Why do we want to proceed with less information? It's not even advantageous to your client. You can tell this to your client that there are a lot of people out there who will try to take advantage of things, and your IDs and me filling out the paperwork properly, completely, you signing everything is securing you as well for that. So fill out correct FinTrack forms. It will help you get the IDs, and make sure you check those IDs with the land title, and you check those IDs with the actual people sitting there if they look similar or not on those IDs, so that no one is involving you in a scam. And still, if you get that feeling, let's say in dour scenarios where there's only one name on the title, and this has happened where a married couple and one spouse has got a lawyer involved and got the property land title flipped on their name, and they got line of credits and other things done from that, which is a fraud. The lawyers were involved in it too, but the lawyer can get away by getting just one consent form signed and saying the other party knows, and then whatever they did, however creative they were, they got fake signatures on it or whatever it is, but it is there. So getting the dower out or explaining the dower can get rid of these situations. Pulling the land title and asking the person, how come there's only one name on this? Where's the name of the other person, right before listing or filling out the listing form? And if you ever have any doubt, call us. Consult a lawyer right away if in doubt. We can guide you. We have had very good realtors here who were approached by people. They either didn't know how to handle that situation, or they felt that there is something going on and they called us, or they took the effort to come down to the office, sit with me and go over things, and I explain them right away. No, this is a fraud, where the purchase price, or they just want a mere posting. They have the buyers, they will do everything, they just want to give you $1,000-$1,500 and get it over with. So all these kind of things, you have to, it's your job to look into it, look for all those flags, keep yourself safe, do a good job out there, make lots of money. Thank you, everyone. I probably will be sharing this later on. I will send you the video clip. And thanks for joining today.